when I make it, I'm not going to make fun of anyone in this journey because I know how hard it is. So that's why I feel like we aren't as cocky or arrogant as others, because we know how hard this journey is. We almost feel sympathy towards them because it's not easy to be successful in this industry. You have to go through stress, all types of things just to make it in this industry.
Welcome everyone to another Words of Rizdom Podcast special edition today. This is the first roundtable and we actually have a roundtable, and it's incredible. But we have Paladin, we have Omar, and we have Kyle, aka JadeCap.
How's it going? Yeah.
Yeah, I made sure. You know.
Yeah, no.
Beforehand, I'm like, I know the names.
You're good. And
then when it happens, I'm always like,
yeah.
That's But no, it's a pleasure to have you here. I know we both were just on podcast episodes, but it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure, and it wouldn't be right if I came to New York and I didn't have all the New Yorkers. This is incredible. You know? And
New York's got the best traders.
It seems to be right now, honestly. And I think this table is hot right now, if that makes sense. Like everyone, all of you, respectively smashing it, absolutely killing it. I know, the interesting thing about every single one of you, though, that I've noticed is that even though you're hitting all these milestones and getting all this recognition, each one of you is like still saying like, we're just a normal person. I'm just trying to be better. I'm just trying to strive forward. And, I really respect that a lot because it's so easy to do the opposite side. Like I'm the best.
Oh yeah.
I did this. I crushed it. But like, we'll start with you, Kyle. Like what's the mindset behind that? Is that just...
Yeah, honestly, like now that I've hit like a certain level of success, it kind of just feels like I'm kind of just getting started. I mean, like on a normal day, you guys can attest to it. You're kind of just like in your office, it's just like a normal day at home, really. So you're just clicking buttons. You're just trying to improve, and like the markets are limitless. So when when you hit a certain level, there's always new goals that you can try and reach for. So it's like never ending, and that's kind of like it's like the biggest puzzle in the world for me, right? So like every time I scale up, as far as like sizing, like I face mental challenges. Like it's almost the same process going through the same mental challenges every time I scale up. So I kind of attack it the same way every time.
Definitely. So it's just like that same puzzle, but just maybe different levels to it.
Exactly. I think I watched I can't remember. It was a good interview about Tiger Woods. Like I think his swing coach was saying, he's just relentless at improving his swing. Like even though he's like one of the best golfers in the world, he's always improving and always trying to tweak it.
No, definitely. Well, what do you guys think?
I mean, as real traders, we can't really have an ego because we know what happens when we have an ego. Yeah. If we think, we're the best out there, all our trades will hit, then we end up losing our accounts, as many of us have already experienced that. So it just applies. Whatever we do in real life, it applies in our trading. It's just a balance. So that's why I think some of the trading influencers out there, they're not really egotistical or too arrogant because they know what happens in the markets if you portray that characteristic.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think too, like just being as a human being, at the end of the day, bro, like we're no better than anyone else, and again, there's always levels to everything, right? You can make a specific monetary amount today. Someone's like quadrupling 100x what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So like Kyle said, like there's always different levels. At the end of the day, there's no need to have an ego either because it's just like, again, we're just regular people. Like if I was walking down the street and I didn't know any of you guys, I would just look at you guys like, oh yeah, they're just another human being, another person and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there's accomplishments doesn't really define the individual. And again, like I said, there's new levels to kind of approach. And it's just good to kind of stay level-headed and don't kind of feed into your own ego sometimes, because then that's when all the trouble kind of happens and you get ahead
every time, man. Every time you get a little overconfident, you just take that loss.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned levels there, and I think it's very interesting because as you were progressing, so let's say you're at the sort of beginning stages, maybe middle stages.
Oh, yeah.
When you're going through those levels, did you find that you were kind of coming across other people who may be a level above you, 2 levels above you, and then that would allow you to sort of tap into the habits, the routines, the mindset? So even now that you're at, say, what most would consider the highest level or super high level, you're still then coming across people who are 2-3 levels above.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of noticed like it never really did me any good in my career, like trying to compare myself to some, because my friend was like, he was really close to me, so I always saw him, like he didn't graduate from college and stuff, but his salary just kept going up and up and up, and he kept getting these promotions, And like when I looked at him, I was like, oh, man, how come I can't do that too? You know? So like comparison, they say comparison is the thief of joy. Right. So if you're always trying to, I mean, everybody, there's, as Omar said, like there's somebody that's out there that's crushing it more than you. Right. So if you're always looking externally, like you're never going to improve.
Yeah. No, definitely. What do you guys think?
For me, as I keep leveling up, I keep encountering more people who are levels ahead of me. So it just keeps me motivated to keep leveling up.
Definitely, yeah. So using as a, rather than comparison, going for the source of motivation.
Exactly. And also I'm 21, so I'm just like, I have a lot of time.
Yeah. Oh, this is calling me old.
It was funny because on the last podcast we were talking about like me and Omar were basically like, yeah, these young kids and stuff.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Omar?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always levels to achieve, right? Whether it's in trading or something that, you know, someone might even want to pursue outside of trading. Like even just on this table, like, you know, Kyle has had tremendous success. Like, and I even look up to that. Like I remember even last year when I saw him on Twitter when he had that post about like, you know, having 3.2 million under management and then seeing how much he did for that calendar year, you know, that's always a level of inspiration. Like, okay, you know what? There's always levels to it. Because I thought last year me doing like anywhere between 7 to 10K a month, right? Maybe like around 15K if it was a really good month on average, right? I thought that was like, wow, you know, because that was the first year where I was actually able to kind of consistently bring in some money per month. And I can like, I knew I could pay bills with my trading. That was the first year that I ever had that. And then even then, thinking that was like, you know, that was a specific level that I got to that I was kind of like happy about. Then you see other people like Kyle, you see Paladin, even some traders I'm watching right now on Twitter who are doing 30K months, 40K months, like that. You just realize there's always levels to get there. But like he said, it's very important though that you don't kind of like compare yourself and then start to do too much, because that happened to me last year where I remember I saw like someone post a big payout and I'm like, damn, I only made like $5,000 for the month. And then I was starting to think like, you know what, I just got to size up, and I blew my account, one of my funded accounts during that month, trying to kind of hit a leaderboard or something like that. So it is very important not to kind of get ahead of yourself and just incrementally start to, you know, size up. And also the best way to size up, just get more funded accounts, because you can keep the same risk on. And then just by access of more capital, you'll have a lot more success and more money will come through.
100%.
Yeah, you're going to like just slowly expose yourself to the risk. Like when I first started, cause I talk about it a lot, my career, I started out in construction, right? I started out on small projects and then I kind of worked my way up. But when you get, you know, once you get, you know, a 500K project, at the time, that's a huge project to you. But then when you start getting to like 5 million, 10 million, 25 million, you're like, all right, it's like the same, it's literally the same process managing that project. It's just on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Right.
But then obviously imagine if you went from say a 500K project to a 25 million.
It's just like it's a muscle you have to build. I think, you know, Real Gene talks about it. Like I think when you go to the gym and you try and back squat how much he's back squatting, like you're gonna break your back, you know? So like it's the same way when you scale up incrementally. You know, it's a lot safer and it's healthier for your like equity curve.
No, definitely. So I feel like the balance there is not trying to compare to others, but also you can use others as a source of inspiration and sort of to negate the complacency that comes in when you are starting to hit certain numbers and certain levels. When you're seeing these people above you, you don't want to compare to them, because then that can be a negative impact. But if you are able to say, okay, this person's achieving this.
Yeah.
That
like
means
how does he think, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, what's interesting is you touch on, obviously, you know, the capital and the different payouts and stuff. How did you guys, in terms of like risk, because a lot, you've got the funding there, 7 figures as well. How are you managing the risk with those sort of size accounts?
I mean, for me, like I'm doing like 0.25% across pretty much the board, and I try and pyramid in. Like at times when it's like an A+ setup, I'll size up and do like 1%, as long as my initial balance is, you know, I'm kind of close to my initial balance where I have a buffer. Okay. Like if I'm going in a drawdown, I kind of play it safe.
Of course.
You know, I kind of size down. But I know you guys talked about it, like maybe it's best if you kind of split up all the capital, right, and trade them differently. Like I've thought about that too, right? But it is more management. Like it doesn't work. No, yeah. So it's all one pot that I'm looking at it as. Yeah.
How do you handle it? Is there any challenges that come with that?
At times, right? Like, because if I'm taking a loss on one, I'm taking a loss on all of them, right? But for me, it's a lot simpler because I'm just following one pair, you know? If I'm in one trade, I only have to follow one setup. If I talked with somebody about it over the weekend when I met in Miami, and he said, you know, I kind of want to think about it as if I have all these funded accounts, maybe this week I'm just going to trade this account. And then the following week, I'll trade this account, right? If I take a loss in one account, now I can use the other account the following week. Even if I'm on a losing streak, I can still possibly manage a payout from that one account while I kind of, crawl out of that drawdown period, which is interesting. I mean, there's a million ways that you can manage the capital, right? It's kind of how whatever makes you comfortable, really.
No, definitely. But it sounds really good. And, as you say, it's there is no right or wrong way. That's what makes sense to you. So it's interesting. Have you ever had any issues in terms of, having a copier on that many accounts? Any issues? Differences? No. Which copier do you use?
Solo Trader tool.
Yeah, I've always used. Yeah, it's a good one.
I think at times though, I think the platform's gone down. Like, yeah. Only for like a small period of time. Like all the accounts will disconnect. And you're like, what's going on? But it's usually right around like the rollover period, like the end of day close. Like they may be updating their software or something.
Maintenance.
Yeah, you could always go on. Like I always didn't have any issues with logging into MT4.
They normally email you, don't you? I remember using social trader tools, and you just get all these emails.
Oh yeah. I had
trade close.
I know, yeah. Especially if you're overtraded, man.
It's like 1,000 emails. Oh man, that's crazy. But yeah, it's really good to hear. Really good to hear. And how about you guys then?
Well, for me, I tried doing it all at once, but the thing is, I like to get paid every month. So even though I can make more money combining it all together, psychologically, it just feels better to get paid every month, even if it's less. I don't want to go through a period where I'm down, and then I might rush myself to just get back to break even to make some profits for the month if I didn't even make any money. So with having different accounts, I'm able to place a trade here. Sometimes there's riskier trade setups, and if you haven't traded for a week, you might just feel inclined to take it. So then I'll just throw it on one of my side accounts. But I have a main account for A+ trade setups. I risk anywhere between 0.5% and then 1% once I have a 2% buffer. All my accounts are traded differently, but all I know in the end is I'm getting paid mostly every month, and that's all that matters.
That's good. No, it's a very similar approach to like his friend that where they kind of have an account every single week. Because for me, but not like I don't have it down to a complete science where it's like every single week. It really depends on how the account's going, like or the type of week that we're kind of going in. So if I know it's like a heavy news week, right, and I'm trading an account from the starting balance, right, I'm gonna take it a little bit easy. If the account goes into drawdown, it's no problem. But the following week, let's just say, okay, that account maybe is like down 1% or whatever, maybe down to 1.5%. I have the second account just so I can get a payout, like the friend that was saying. So that way, because think about it like this: if you start it all at one, and I've done this before with my FTMO accounts because I had like two 100K accounts. I had a 200K account last year, and then they were all in the copier, and it just added so much psychological stress if I was down 1% because it's like, all right, my payout isn't in a week. You know what I mean? So it's like I kind of have to like trade out of drawdown, and it forced me a little bit to kind of like maybe overtrade if there was no setup there to try and meet that payout requirement, right? Because you have to obviously be in profit for that payout. So that's when I kind of like took a step back and just kind of trade a bunch of 100K accounts kind of separately. So if this account in 2 weeks is up 3,000, I can withdraw 2,400. If that 100K account is negative, it's fine. I'll just try and trade my way out of drawdown on that account down the line. If this 100 account has 2,000 profit, I can withdraw 1,800 on that bi-weekly. So, but I will say this: it is so much more in terms of like management because you have to know, okay, this accounts for this accounts for that. This account, okay, is in drawdown. I gotta like slowly build it up.
Pros and cons, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's pros and cons with everything. So you just kind of have
in between.
So you kind of and switching between like the MT4 on your desktop or whatever. So again, it really is all dependent on what cons is like the least to you. So it's like, because at the end of the day, it's like, for Kyle, it's much easier to manage. Yeah, right.
We're giving away the trade secret, man. That's why.
But like for Kyle, for him, it works best because it is so much simpler when you're trading one account. It really, really is.
Yeah, but like you said, like last year I was going through periods of drawdown. I'm in a drawdown period for like a month and a half. I'm not making any money.
Yeah, see, and that's it.
Do you have any that are like 8% drawdown, then 10% drawdown?
Yeah, they're different, right? But like I'll usually never try and get below like 2.5%. Like if I'm using, because like if you really think about the drawdown, like that's actually you're down 25%.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I think obviously in terms of if you have such a large capital pot like that, then obviously using the 0.25%, for example, is
it's actually high risk. It's actually high risk.
Because as I say, you could go 0.1, for example. Yeah, still a substantial amount of money and keeps you in that game.
Yeah.
But no, it makes complete sense. And as Omar said, in terms of
I guess as far as like monetary risk, like it's almost the same. Like if you have, a 600K account, you're taking 1%, that's like $6,000. If I'm doing it on like $2 million, doing 0.25%, it's almost the same as a monetary risk.
100%.
So let me actually throw a question out there. as well, because I actually want to pick a Kyle's brain and Paladin's brain as well, and even Riz, you can chime in as well. When it comes to the actual challenges, right? How do you guys approach them? Because I've talked to so many different traders, and I'll be honest, there's like one trader, I'm not gonna name who it is, but they're crushing it with like the payouts, passing challenges consistently, and they're doing like real good numbers. And I had a conversation with him, and he pretty much risks the full daily amount. So if there's a 5% drawdown, right, he'll risk like 4.5, obviously just to avoid slippage, and because you don't want to get like too close to 5,000. Then
what happens? What does he do if he takes the loss though, the initial loss?
yeah, I mean he'll just kind of like do the other 5%, assuming there's the 10% drawdown, because I know some firms are 8%. He'll just do the next 5% the next day.
Oh man.
Yeah, so he's good.
Giving himself
Yeah, but
That's enough.
I will say this. But I will say this, right? Because like I don't want like the audience to kind of like he's in a better financial situation, and he's had multiple 5-figure payouts, so he's able to do
that as a business expense, right?
exactly.
Using
That's
that
how he views
business
it.
expense because you get funded faster, right?
Yeah, that's his goal.
There's no minimum days, or you get funded faster. But for me, like typically on phase one, I'm doing like 1 or 2%. If I go up, if I win my first trade, then you can do 2 or 3% and then pass it in 2 trades. And then phase 2, it's almost the same thing. I'm doing 1%. And then when I get funded, it's I'm trying to deleverage. At times, like when I find an A+ setup, obviously I'm trying to hit a home run. But some of those home runs don't always pan out. Like the other day, I left 50K on the table just from closing it an hour too early. Like an hour too early, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get lunch. I came back, I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But like just doing, for me, 1% is fine, because like 8R, you could, on a good week, like the market's really been choppy this year, so on a good week, you can do 8R. Like that's 2 or 3 trades in the bag. But I see like the stats, they don't lie. Like a lot of people are losing their account, right, in like 9-10 days or whatever it is. So a lot of people are probably not really giving themselves a chance to try and pass it. So I wouldn't recommend the 4.5%. Like obviously you could do.
Yeah. By the way, I don't recommend.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. By the way, I do not recommend this. I'm just saying stuff that I heard.
I mean, if you have an edge, like you could definitely do it. Like if you're waiting for that. The thing was, I recommend this. Is a lot of people would just be better off if they waited for the perfect setup and then pay for the account. Instead of paying for the account and now forcing it, like I got to start trading this right away. You don't have to do that. Like you could pay for the account and let it sit there for a little bit and then wait for the A+ setup. But if you don't have the experience, you don't know what an A+ setup looks like. So when somebody asked me the other day, what does an A+ setup look like? I can't really, it's hard for me to tell you what it looks like, right? Because it's like years of experience. It's me watching, back testing and trading the same setups over and over and over again. It's hard for me to convey like what that A+ setup is. Like you gotta have to do the work on your own and figure out what your A+ setup is.
Exactly, yeah.
What's actually funny is there was one time in New York session where the market conditions were so perfect. Everything was beautiful. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to get funded again. I bought a challenge at that instant with a prop firm that allows you to get funded in 1 day. And I just ended up risking 3-4% of that trade. I started scaling on it, which I don't usually do on my funded accounts. I went aggressive just because everything was clean. And I passed the challenge. Price retraced back into an area to buy again. I bought it again. I got funded within that day. So if you see that the market conditions are really good, might as well just risk a little more. That's if you already have a safety net. That's if you have already a bunch of funded accounts, because losing that challenge is not that big of a deal once you do have a safety net. Because for me, a 400K challenge costs maybe like 0.5% risk for me. So it all varies with everyone. But if you're starting off and you don't have a safety net, it's always best to go conservative and build that buffer first. Then you can proceed to risk higher.
Which I think a lot of people probably don't have. They don't have the safety net, right? They're putting all their whole paycheck into this, and they're trying to hit a home run. Like,
100%.
I mean, a lot of people are struggling, right? So that's just the reality. Like, if you're struggling, try and find a way to boost your income first, and then focus on trading. Because, like, trying to trade these challenges will just eat through your pocketbook. Like,
100%.
It's gonna destroy your finances. Then you're straight up gambling, right?
Yeah, it's really sad to see how they have no safety net, they have nothing, and they're gambling on the challenges verification. And then maybe one day they got lucky and they get funded, right? The same gambling behavior goes to the funded account and they end up losing it. So
that probably ruins them even more.
Exactly.
So they think it's okay. I did it right. And they
I'll just do it again. Fund it again.
That's it. And it's interesting you say that, because what I gather is, as you said, like someone did 4.5%, right? And they have their A+ setup for them to then feel comfortable doing that. Plus they have that buffer, so it's not as much risk. So they've got that financial foundation.
If they're running it as a business, they just write that off as a
Exactly, yeah. But I feel like it's an interesting point because it's like on one side, it's positive, it's a business expense, and that's the right mindset. But then on the other side, if you haven't gotten to that point yet, yeah, so like imagine it's a straight line. If you're not here yet to be able to do that crossover into that side, then it's a complete negative if you have that mindset, because then these people who don't have the foundation will just constantly say, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
And they might pass one, as you say, but then have the wrong mentality. And by passing, it's like this positive reinforcement of this negative action.
So it's straight money management. You know, like the same people will probably get that buyer's remorse. You know, if they're like shopaholics, they're gonna buy something and regret it later.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like when they're paying for challenges and then blowing them right away, like they're gonna have that buyer's remorse. Maybe they're gonna go back in and try and do it the same day. You know, you could easily blow 10 accounts in one day. You know, easily.
I've been there.
Especially if you're doing the 4.5%.
Yeah, I will say this, right? Because like the person, I know we could talk about, like I'll say who it is off camera, but like that's the
Call them out.
nah. But I will say this, right? Like, because this person, that's why I want the audience to like kind of understand. This guy is getting 5 figures in payouts. So if he's not doing a challenge where he can't afford to lose the challenge fee. So again, if he's doing, let's just say he just had a $20,000 a month in total withdrawals, right, from all funding companies. And then to the cost of, let's just say, 100K accounts only $500 relative to that amount, it's very low risk for that individual. Mind you, that individual knows what he's doing. He's got his system.
We have to think as well. He only has to get a 1 to 2.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, he's passed, and again, if he's doing an A+ setup for him, wherever that may be,
you need to have an edge, right? Like it's so easy to access right now. Like a lot of people just don't have the edge. Like build the edge first, and then take the challenge.
Definitely. And in regards to that, then, like building the edge, a lot of people, they do some sort of work. They have like a confluence of this, especially with like smart money concepts, right? I got an order block. I got a premium discount. There's a fair value gap. Okay, I've had all 3 of those, and there's a break of structure. Let me enter. Would you define that as an edge?
No, I think the edge is mental. I think it is. Because, if you put a trade on and you're nervous, right, and I'm not nervous, I have the edge over you, right? Like, if we're playing one-on-one basketball, and I know what I'm doing, right? Like, I'm going to dunk on you, like, I'm going to cross you over, right? Like, I've got the mental edge, or even if you have the same skill set, right? Whoever's got the mental edge is coming out ahead.
Yeah, my edge is basically, when I get into a trade, I don't care if I lose, to be honest.
Exactly.
Because I know that over 10 trades, even if I feel 7 out of 10, if 7 out of 10 trades hit my stop loss and I hit TP on 3 out of 10 trades, I'll only be down negative 1% if I'm risking 1%. So that edge really helps me just trade with confidence, no fear, and it really helps me.
Break out the coin, man. Got it.
I'll say this, right? One of my mentors, Tom Dante. I'm pretty. And like he, one of the
legend.
Yeah, it really is. I think honestly, I would recommend everyone.
We need to have him here.
Oh yeah, I wish. Like he's honestly
in my DMs, man. I'll try and get him on. He's kind of been incognito.
I respect.
But he's honestly like I think if anyone wants to treat the business as a professional, like by far, by some of his content, he has a bunch of free stuff on YouTube. But I think he's the #1 guy in my opinion when it comes to like trading as a business. He has obviously experience working with like actual properties.
He keeps it so real.
And he said it too. Like the edge is actually in the trader, because what's the point? I've had like friends, right, who were not that skilled, but their mental was like, they always respected their stop loss, their risk to reward. They understood, hey, if I bought, and they were trading retail concepts, like if I bought this support, you know what I mean? I get my confirmation in golfing bars, whatever they were trading. Like they were making money because they understood if I run it from here to here consistently over a span of time, I'm going to make more money. And they were always stopping out. And they did everything kind of like, their mindset was just like, they knew what they had to do. They just did it. And they would make so much more money. And they weren't as quote unquote skilled in the sense they were just trading basic retail concepts.
Yeah, so like I talk with him. I hope he doesn't mind that I share the story, but when I talk with him, right, when he was trading at that firm, I think you've probably heard a couple stories where he was trading next to Nav. I guess he was a huge trader.
Yeah.
Right. He had mentioned to me there was this one trader on the desk, and I don't know what his name is. I can't share it. Like, I don't know what it is. He didn't share it with me, but he had mentioned that this one trader, he had published a ton of books. Like, he was a well-known person in the industry. But when he went over to his desk, he realized he was trading like one lot on the ES, right? It was really small. It was like a micro lot, and he was losing his shit. And then there was this other trader on the desk that would go over to the risk department and ask for a bigger line because he wanted to size in. And you looked at his position, and he had like 1,000 lots on the ES, which is huge. It's a lot of risk. And he was like cool as cucumber. Right. So it's like a mindset thing, like this guy was, high profile, had the, had the big backing of the industry. I guess he was like a well-known author, but he didn't have the mental edge. So like he couldn't trade size.
And I'd love to hear that. It's just really good insight because, the thing with Mr. Dante is by now, I think that's like maybe the fifth or sixth person to mention him on the pod now. So it's like we should have a whisper.
No, so the interesting thing is he learned from James 16, and when back in like 2011, that's who I started learning from. It was mostly just price action bars, like hammers and pin bars and outside bars. But he just has the mental edge, and that's really what it is. It's just letting that edge play out.
Things that like
Paladin said, you could have like less than a 50% win rate and still come out ahead.
But handling less than a 50% win rate, for example, isn't easy. I think it's that fight or flight response. If people are able to handle that, right, and maybe even not overcome it to a degree, but like be able to live within it, so they're not actually having that response, which sounds like this author guy had that response and therefore couldn't handle it, versus this other person who was on the complete opposite side of the scale.
He does have it, he's managing it internally better.
This is why I've always reflected on the fact that servicemen and sort of veterans or people who've been in the army, for example, end up being quite good traders because they obviously handle that fight or flight response within a different area of life, and therefore they've built up this different mentality. And therefore, if they do reflect to, not everyone of course, but when they do reflect to trading, I've found that they are actually better traders because they've, compared to what they were doing before, handling a loss on a trade, no matter how big or small, is in comparison not very big much. I don't know, have you guys interacted with anyone from?
So I actually, big shout out to my friend Matt Mickey. He's an ex-combat vet. But he had mentioned, he's like extremely disciplined and he knows like processes and he sticks to them. Like he's a very disciplined mindset person. So when he's trading, it's all about back testing and looking at the statistics. That's really all it is. It's just a numbers game. You just have to be comfortable with the numbers and understanding you're going to lose X amount of trades, right? And he actually said he's like in personal contact with David Goggins. So we wanted to like try and see. We wanted to try and see if we could have a trader retreat at some point and teach David how to trade.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I'm just not participating in any runs. Not with David Goggins.
Goggins running it, man. Like
I woke up.
Like I would love to do that at some point. Like kind of host like a Hell Week kind of for traders.
Oh, incredible! Yeah.
If they're down for it.
If they're down for it, I'm sure there's a select few, right?
Well, I think it would be an interesting challenge because it's something I was talking about in regards to running a business or being a trader or I had on the what was it, the CEO or the founder, sorry, of Funding Talent, earlier today. And I was saying to her how like everyone can have their opinion, and they can hate on you and etc. and say that if I was in that position, I would have done this better. But the reality is you won't know what you're going to be like until you're in that situation.
Yeah.
So like with the Hell Weeks, I could easily sit there and be like, I could do a Hell Week. No problem. It'll be hard, it'll be challenging, but I could get through that. Reality being though, until you actually go and do it, it's a whole different story. But that's the challenge.
Yeah, like I said in the past podcast, what David Goggins said, many dreams die while suffering.
Yeah, 100%. No, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Make sure you invite me.
Yeah. Just do it.
Make sure you invite me. Don't leave me alone, man. But tell me, like,
do you want to just be on the sidelines?
This is what I say. Tell me 12 months in advance so I can train.
Yeah. So I think we all want to,
100%. No, that's amazing.
I would want to know at least in advance. I started doing ice baths, I've been doing ice baths. Like, I'm kind of getting ready.
Kyle messaged me the other day. Where was I? I can't remember where I was, but he messaged me the other day and he was like, I'm in the woods. And I was like, what are you talking about? In the woods. That's what I sent him, like, in the woods. And he was like, oh, sorry, it's someone else. He was running. Yeah, getting ready.
Just training for that half marathon, man. Like, I was a distance runner back in high school. Like, I never ran more than like 3 miles straight though. But like you were saying, like, you don't know how badly it's gonna suck until you're actually out there. Like the other day was like 95 degrees. I think I told you I went out there with nothing, like no energy gels, no water. I was like 6 miles out from my car and just realized like, oh man, I messed up. Like I should have brought some water. I was like looking at people passing me on their bikes. I was like looking at their water bottles. I was like pushing them over.
Man, but how do you find, like, obviously, you're doing this training at the moment, and what has that done for your mental?
Honestly, it's boosting my mental clarity like a lot, because when you're out there, it's just you and your mind. You're just in your.
Do you have headphones or?
Yeah, I'll listen to music and stuff, but I think David Goggins is like, you know you're in the shit when you don't have any music and this is you and your thoughts, you know?
When I run long distance, I actually get the best thoughts. Like I start thinking of
No music though.
project
No music.
with music on. To be honest, like, I just ignore the music.
Yeah,
I'm just running and
Start fading.
all these thoughts start coming in, and I'm like, oh wow. And then miles go by, and then I look down, like, oh, 10 miles in, that's pretty good.
If Paladin didn't mention it, he's trying to train for ultra at some point. So
I don't know about that.
and he told me you're gonna.
Oh yeah.
We'll put money up.
Money up.
Till the end. Did you ever do this? So like, I know you do training and stuff.
Yeah, no, I can't do like long runs, man. That's not.
Nah, you can.
No, I know I can, right? Cause I used to like I remember me and my group chat, we had like this little competitive thing like about a year ago, like try to run 40 miles in like 40 days, something like that. Maybe like in a month. I don't remember. But I remember like I never ran like an extended amount of time, right? But I remember like the first day I did 3 miles, then the second day 5 miles. Then I had to take a break because then my knees and like my ankles were destroyed after that, so I had to take a few days off. But again, I had never had ran 5 miles, and I used to look at other people who ran 5 miles and be like, damn, like I don't know if I could ever do that. So
I think once you start going,
yeah, that's what it is.
like the day after,
Yeah,
as my knees been killing me.
exactly. But then but I'm more of a combat. Like I'd rather do like Muay Thai, just hit pads, spars, things like
He's
that.
training for the proper fight night.
Yeah, and proper fight night.
Kyle's the promoter.
We're gonna make it happen, man.
I think we should do the retreat as the training camp, and then we'll do the fight.
Well, Riz, you said you're gonna sign up too. I think
I'm ready.
you'd be a great announcer, though. Honestly,
I'll do both. I'll announce it. If we had WWE, I'll announce and I'll get in the ring straight after. But no, I've always said I'm down for it because I just enjoy it. And I think at the end of the day, we're all traders, right? So you see the social media boxing, right? But then a lot of them are doing it for the money, right? Build money in this.
I think it would help build a lot of people's brands too. If we can post something and have all the propers out.
But this is the thing. I think we should do it for charity.
Yeah,
because everyone, we're all traders. We're all making money, so we do it for charity. So there's actual, a lot of big cause being done there.
You heard that, guys? We're calling you all out.
That's it. We're ready. But I think it's going to end up happening. And I think the way that the space is going and with the whole social media influence boxing and stuff, I think it's going to happen, right? It's just about getting enough people to sign
Do
up.
MMA, man.
Now that would be cool. Yeah, that would be
That's a little brutal.
I would recommend not proud.
We'll just find it out, We'll change an influencer's face.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's good though. It's good fun.
Mess up your brain. Now you can't even trade anymore.
But in regards to, we were just talking about the discipline and the growth of doing something hard like running, for example. I know you mentioned the ice baths as well and cold exposure. Now nowadays there's a lot of like what people class as like fads. Like it's cool to do it, cool to say it, right? And then sometimes you get the backlash of other people saying like, oh, it doesn't do anything, or it's not going to change it. Right. In reality, obviously, you could do the runs, you can do the cold plunges, but if you're not fixing this or actually focusing on what is meant to benefit, of course, it's not going to make a difference in your training, for example. But the way I see it is like we're trying to learn how to handle chaos, right? So like I use the analogy of like boxing, for example. Like when you're boxing, you have to be able to think about your movement, your breathing, your defense, and your offense all at the same time. So if you can't handle that chaos, you're not going to win. You'll probably get knocked out or you'll lose. If you learn to handle that chaos, they're the best boxers of all time. So I've always thought of cold exposure, running, saunas, for example, as well. These elements of you forcing yourself into chaos and then being able to handle it. Is that, you've been doing it recently?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. The cold exposure thing is really just facing some adversity, right? And on the long runs, you're like questioning everything. You're like, why am I out here? Why am I doing this? And you just have to, rely on your mental edge to push you through. And like focus on my breathing when I'm in that situation and like my back's up against the corner.
For me, the cold showers. I've been taking cold showers this entire year. I still haven't experienced a hot shower yet. And the reason why is the chaos as well, but just sticking to what I said I'm gonna do. That's the main reason why I do cold showers.
Like, don't do it for social media. Like, just do something as a disciplined practice for 90 days. I don't think 30 days builds a habit. I think like something like 3 months will build a habit. But just do it for yourself and then see how it actually affects you. Right? Like even journaling, right? Like it's also something simple like that.
It's also very hard to take a cold shower when you're living up near Buffalo and it's just snowing. I come out from outside, come back in, I'm like, I be just waiting, like contemplating about taking this cold shower. I'm just like, okay, I gotta do it because I'm gonna do it, and then I end up doing it, and I feel good after. Like
I feel superhuman after, man. Like,
yeah,
I come out like ready to fight.
I'm out here like thinking I just want a UFC fight. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, they're energized, But like, what do you in terms of What was I going to say? Mine goes blank sometimes, yeah. I've been doing, this is my 5th one of the day. I can't handle it. But in regards to
discipline, you're disciplined in doing this podcast. You have to eat.
yeah, forget to eat, forget what thoughts I have as well. It's not good. No, but in regards to that though, like,
let me just stop you for a moment there, guys, because I want to tell you about our other sponsor, and I have partnered with, and I'm very excited to tell you about this one, TradeZella. Now, as someone who's a trader and myself, I learned how important journaling is. Now, I only wish I had a software like this. Now, it is going to revolutionize the trading journey. I cannot wait for you guys to check out TradeZella. TradeZella is the most in-depth automated journal I've seen. You can now connect with MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5. So it's available for everyone, whether you trade options or whether you trade prop firms or your own personal account. Now a task that everyone finds annoying, journaling their trades, which is yet so important. Everyone needs to journal their trades. They need the data, but yet very few people do it. Why? Because of the struggle. And that is what TradeZella is here to fix for you. It goes into such depth into your trading and your statistics that you'll be able to see every element of your trading. If you want to have different strategies, you can create different playbook. If you want to be able to review a trade, you can actually replay it so that it will show you the price action as if it was live. You'll be able to see the best performing days, the worst performing days. The depth is unreal. I am extremely confident that even from the beginner trader to the advanced trader will find TradeZella absolutely game-changing. The level of detail that it will provide you on your trades is insane. Even things that I'd never thought of were available on TradeZella. Suddenly you're going to be able to see the patterns and what you can improve to be the best prop firm trader possible. That is the TradeZella team, and that is why I am happy to be sponsored by them. Check out the code below, Riz10, for 10% off your TradeZella subscription. The link is in the description, and let's get back to the episode.
you know, what you mentioned, I think is very powerful in terms of sticking to your word. You know, I think a lot of people come into this space and they're like, I'm going to do the work. But then, 2 weeks in, they're just slacking, or 2 weeks, I've set this trading plan. 2 weeks in,
all the time, Yeah, some people, like some close friends, are like, I'm going to get into the trading thing. And it's been like months now. I'm like, hit me up whenever. Like, I'm literally at home all day long. You could stop by my house whenever you want, man. But yeah, just stick to what you're going to say you're going to do. Because I noticed that with myself. It took me longer than it probably should have to find profitability, because I was saying I was going to do these things and not do them. Right. And then I just got so fed up with it. I was like, all right, this is it. It's make or break.
Yeah, I only started following my trading rules once I went through all that pain when I didn't follow my trading rules. So yeah. So when I start to break my rules or think about it, I just start thinking about all the past experiences, and then that just stops me.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I remember because last year was kind of the turning point year for me personally, and it's so weird because, like, even prior to that, right, the year prior in 2021, bro, I had the skill set. Like, it's so weird. I think most people, and you guys can kind of like talk about it as well. I think most people have this skill set, right? Because I know in 2021, bro, like, I used to call in my group chat, like with my friends' chats. We used to, like, I'll be like super accurate on the direction. I even like talk about like, yo, price is gonna bounce from here, and then I look at my P&L and I'm down on the day. And like, and again, that's why I really like Tom Dante, because a lot of the stuff that he was talking about from his own experiences, from other prop firm traders that he was trading with, they had similar experiences, like where there will be someone who's really talented but can't make any money. And it goes to show, like, there is something in terms of just sticking to your word, right? Confiding in yourself and understanding, like, listen, if I set out a game plan of what I'm going to do every single day, do it for an extended amount of time until it becomes that habit, when it becomes a lot more natural to do it. Because our first instinct sometimes, right, is to revenge trade, right? Because you're down on the day, then you go on Twitter, and then, this X trader is up like $10,000, and you're like, oh my God, and you're looking at your P&L and you think you suck. And then all these like internal dialogue starts to kind of come out. And even now, like, right, even like finding consistency last year, and, having a few payouts this year, right? This year a little bit more difficult because the market has kind of been a lot more choppier than recent past in terms of like not as much trend. So you have to be very picky. But even then, the internal dialogue it's a constant work in progress. You don't just wake up one day and boom, you know what I mean? Like, you really have to kind of stick to what your word. And then once you kind of view your word as like the gospel, right, where it's just like, I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do, I really think that's gonna that
That's like
ultimately
the
helps.
breakthrough point. Like
Yeah.
that's when your trading takes like a U-turn, and then you start doing the things that you practice or know that you should be doing, or like sticking to your risk management plan. Like a lot of people just can't be disciplined enough to stick to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you like break it up into different parts, if you know what I mean? So like as you mentioned, like risk management, maybe your technical ability.
Honestly, like when I was studying, I probably should have. Like I probably should have focused on one area. But when you're first getting into it, you're trying to focus on everything, because you have to be a well-rounded trader. You can't just lack in one area and then be great at it, in something else, right? So a lot of people are just focused on too many things all at once, so they're trying to learn too much all at once.
For me, I made the mistake of thinking that technical analysis is everything. So I spent 2020 the entire year just studying ICT concepts all day from the moment I woke up till I slept, thinking that's what's going to make me profitable. Only till I started learning about psychology, started learning from Mark Douglas, was I able to actually be profitable.
Yeah. I bring it all up all the time because I was around like when Forex Factory was like the only resource. There was no psychology thread on Forex Factory. Nobody's talking about mindset over there. Trust me.
Yeah, and again, that's what when I referred to before, like about 2021, and even like towards the end of 2020, after I took, we talked about WWA's course content, and integrating some of that stuff with like ICT's concepts, and then like the skill set was there from 2020, but I didn't really start to see any consistent result until the end of 2021, going into 2022. And why is that? It really does boil down to kind of just not following the plan. And I actually wanted to like kind of hear from Kyle, Paladin.
Part of that too is like getting access to capital, right? Like
You know what?
getting access to capital is a huge thing, right? Like because you honestly want to take that 5K to 100K.
Exactly.
Like you do. Everybody out there that's listening right now, like I've been there, and it never happens, because trying to turn that 5K into 100K is going to take you 5-10 years. Like it takes a long time to build up and grow that capital. So for me, like huge shout out to the prop firms. Like if I didn't have access to the capital, I don't think I would be here, like straight up, because I was the guy trying to apply to like S&B Capital and Jane Street, and if you don't have a 2-year track record or some type of like master's in finance, they're not even looking at your resume, like straight up. So when you're, I guess this is a message to all the traders out there, like put yourself in a position where, all right, I actually have a really solid resume to take this funded challenge. Like I deserve this now. Like a lot of people probably have a terrible resume right now, and they're trying to pass this funded challenge. Well, you're never gonna get the job,
Yeah.
So just really like
I've always said trying to flip a small account to like 50, 100K is unrealistic.
you could do it if you're willing to risk the money.
Yeah,
Like if you have the money, right? If you got 250K in your account,
But most don't.
yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
Most Americans don't have that, right? So
I think it's just pushed because of these fake trading influencers. They're trying to show like, oh, they're crazy. They can flip these small accounts to big numbers, and they're willing to lose that money.
maybe
They don't show negative.
maybe they are. Maybe there's. I'm sure like the top 1% of people probably did do that, right? Like,
But I'm
there are people that did flip a small fortune into like massive amounts, right? Like a Larry Williams, like that guy. I think he turned like $2,000 into like $2 million. But that's like that's like 1% type of person, and you can't like assume that you're gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, and I always talk about like not just in like trading, but in like life, right? You're always gonna have like people who are the anomalies, but then people try to use the anomaly.
Exactly.
As
bell curve. There's the bell curve.
Yeah, exactly.
They think, all right, this guy's done it. Somebody challenged me, and I was like, it was like a 1-year challenge, right? And they were like, why don't you just trade your own capital? Why don't you just trade your own capital? I could do it, and I said, well, why don't you try and take that $5,000 that you would have taken and try to flip it into like $50,000 in a year, right? Or do it in a prop firm. Like come back to me in a year and see how it goes. And I'm still waiting. I use like the remind me bot on Twitter. I think it's December of this year. I'm gonna follow back up with that guy.
He's coming.
I'm coming for it, man.
Has to be done here. It's just human.
Like the opportunity with prop firms it's huge.
Yeah.
Like they're giving you leverage, right?
Seriously.
And if you lose the account, you're not losing any money as long as you get the refund, right?
Mhm.
Like you could trade really small, get the refund, and then swing for the fences.
I have a question for you, JadeCap. With smart funded trader out, one of the best prop firms with unlimited trading days, 10% drawdown, raw spreads, what would you recommend adding to the prop firm?
So a lot of people like request futures. I get a lot of questions about futures, but so right now, I was trading futures, but the maintenance cost on them is high.
I saw you mentioned.
So like if you're not making that, right, it's, I'm trying to trade like a big line. So I needed like 10 of those accounts because they're only giving you like a $3,000 drawdown, right? So if you got 10 of them, you got 30K. That's, it's a decent amount of drawdown. But if you're paying $10,000, $20,000 a year in just maintenance fees, right, that's a lot of money. I don't know if it's like the data fees or what. But as far as like, I guess Forex, like the no time limit thing is good, but the statistics do show that it doesn't make a difference, right? So, I mean, it's a very good feature for people that have an edge because not every month is going to be great. Like if you lose the account, you're trying to trade in the summertime, right? Yeah. Summer volatility is terrible. Or around like holidays and stuff, like, December's pretty slow. Even around Thanksgiving is slow. Beginning of the year is slow. So having the no time limit thing is great. And there's another firm out there, I won't mention their name, but they're doing like an increased max drawdown limit. So when you hit the scaling plan, right, they're adding a percentage to your max drawdown. So I think it gets up to like 20% that you can possibly have as a max drawdown. Other than that, like, I think transparency is a huge thing. Like, and huge shout out to Angelo because he talks about, like, I met with him over the weekend and he talked about like how they're actually operating with their A book, B book, like how the spreads are being simulated in phase 1, phase 2, like, and it's legit. Like, we, as funded traders, like, we want to know like that our livelihood is still in good hands, because there's probably a lot of people out there that are trading full time and are relying on these prop firms to pay their bills, right? So obviously regulation, you can't stop that, right? Yeah. So I guess my thing is I kind of want to see a trend towards like previous like brick and mortar firms where they want to see the top traders succeed. Like instead of kicking them out of the firm, like maybe they just have a chat with them, like if they go down 2.5%, well, like Tom Dandy was saying, like they would just pull you into the risk department and have a sit down with you, and they'd tell you size down. That's in my opinion, that's a real legit prop firm.
It's a very interesting point, actually. Very, very interesting point, I think, because I've not heard that before. In terms of having sort of advice given. Say, look, we recognize this trait, from your experience and from the data that we've seen. Here's some advice. Tone things down, etc. I think that's a very, very powerful point, actually. We don't see that in prop firms right now. The prop firm space is very, very interesting. As you say, there's a lot of innovation going on. I think obviously with the smart funded trader, it's going to set a new tone, definitely, and I think it's going to be good for the space because I think competition breeds innovation. And innovation, for the customer, if you will, the consumer, they're the ones who get the benefits at the end of the day because through that innovation, it's like originally we had just FTMO. Yeah. Then you had funding talent come along, which was very interesting because even though what happened to them, and I said this on the podcast with Jessica, I said, it's actually probably a benefit to the industry, even though it wasn't a benefit to you personally in terms of Jessica. Obviously, it was a huge negative and probably a very hard time, but it's kind of that had to happen to someone for the industry to learn.
Yeah. Right? Like Angelo was saying, they don't A-book every trader. Like, they just can't.
Yeah, they can't.
Exactly. And, what she expressed in that interview was that she listened to the traders' sort of feedback and tried to make it as best as possible for the traders and just kept it as a demo simulation. There was no spreads, no commissions, no slippage, and there was no minimum days. I think there was still maximum days, but they made it very, very easy and good, which only what happened was when they did that, and she explained it as like within, I think she said 2 weeks, their payouts doubled, right? Because people were able to game the system and stuff. And therefore they shut down. Right. And things happen very, very quickly after that.
Well, I think the end goal for a lot of prop firms is like they want to e-book some traders, right? Because they want to run their own strategy. So like, what does that end goal look like? Like, find the great traders and help them out, And if they're going through a struggling period, don't let them just struggle on their own, right?
No, I love that.
One thing I've noticed with the prop firms that have no minimum trading days is they go under the prop trading, funding talent. It's a pretty cool observation.
I think it's good.
So does your firm have no minimum trading days you mentioned?
We have
so it's 3 days. So it's like so just for like to avoid anyone who kind of just comes in just wants to just like over leverage right away and stuff like that, because that's the whole point of the smart funded trader. We want to find, because like Angelo said, right, you ultimately want to find someone who's able to maintain consistency, which is why a lot of these prop firms have those VIP programs. Because they want to incentivize, and we have our own VIP program as well, but it's just to ultimately incentivize traders to kind of weed out everyone who's not consistent, because people can get payouts and still not be able to book them because they might be too high risk. right? They might not have a steady equity curve. This guy might like one day just, be down 3 days, 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
And then one day just make it all back because he or she over leveraged.
So I think you guys should just take the leaderboards off. If you were thinking about having a leaderboard, just take it off, in my opinion. Because it's kind of breeding like bad habits. I mean, if it's your decision to leave it up there, like that's cool. But I mean, there's traders out there that are doing crazy percentages, but to me, it's just not realistic to try and do that every month.
I agree.
Well, what's the classic
Right,
thing?
like that's the bell curve. Like that's the outlier.
Exactly.
Looking at the outliers.
But the thing is, like, even then, how many times do we see the same name on the leaderboard?
Yeah.
Right? They always say that the firms have said so far that people who make it on the leaderboard normally blow their account the next month, right? Or the second month.
I used to go on. I think FTMO doesn't allow you to look at accounts anymore. I used to go on FTMO's leaderboard, and I mentioned this with
You can line trades.
I used to go in there and look at the trades that they were taking.
Oh, you could do it all.
Oh yeah, you could have, like back in the day. I don't think they took it down like it was a feature because they used to do YouTube videos. They used to review people's accounts and like, all right, this guy's doing this. I used to go into people's accounts and like most people on the leaderboard had like 100, 200, 300 trades, and that's probably within like a month or 2 weeks. Right, like how many? There's not 100, 200, 300 A+ setups that show up in a month, man. Like I'm telling you, I need that strategy. I need that strategy too, man. But
That's interesting though, and it's another fair point, about the leaderboard there, because as you say, like ever since then, but I think definitely I've had people say to me, I don't know if you've ever had it as well, or maybe even had this sort of goal either. I had a guy who wasn't even consistent yet, but he kept talking about my goal is to be on the leaderboard back to back.
Listen, I've been on the leaderboard a couple times. Nobody cared. Nobody hit me up and was like, no, nobody came over like, yeah, come manage our capital over here. It was, your name's up there and it's gone the next week.
Yeah, no, 100%.
If you're trying to aim for the leaderboard, like, try to realign your goals with something else. Like, it can happen, right? But don't put that on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with the certificate, right? Because a lot of people are like preaching the certificate, but like, I think MyForex Funds published some statistics back in February. I think out of 100,000 accounts that signed up, right, 300 of them made it to payout.
Wow.
It's breeding. I think a lot of it is that mentality, the mentality. And to be honest with you, over the years, there's been so many people come into trading, especially during COVID time. That was where a lot of people started.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense because obviously, that was in terms of our generation, probably our first experience of control and things being taken away you would never imagine being taken away. And
because you got a taste of work from home. Like I got a taste of it too. Yeah. That's why I pressed hard into trading prop, because I saw the ability to like manage a lot of capital, and I pressed hard into that. But yeah, the access to online markets is just like a recent thing. Like even 20 years ago, the access wasn't there. Like there's more brokers and exchanges coming out. There's more prop firms coming out like every single day. Like I'm talking to people from Cameroon, Nigeria. Like it's crazy. You would never be able to do that back in the day.
100%.
Like way back in the day, you had to actually show up on the trading floor to place your trade.
Yeah.
Or call in, and it was like a 3-day turnaround period to get your trade filled. Imagine that.
And it's so crazy to me because like hearing all those stories too, I've heard from other traders. Oliver Velez, he trades equities, and he used to talk about like how much commissions and the jet fees.
The Mark Douglas podcast, like some of those webinars, people were saying they were paying like $100 each way.
Yeah,
for like one lot.
And then you have people like understanding one, the best conditions relative to the time that we're in now, because obviously you can get the best conditions, right? But like some people, it's like they put so much energy and time into, oh my God, this broker sucks. It's like, dude, just go to a different one. Or if this prop firm doesn't offer you the best like spreads, just go to a different one. If they have higher commissions, there's so many. That's the good thing about like having multiple firms. Like you said, there's innovation. And if you don't like one thing about one firm, you can go and max out on
another. I got a question for you guys, because I get asked this a lot. Like, have you had any issues with spreads at any of the firms that you're trading with?
So I will say this, right? Not so much the spreads for me, because like the spreads are pretty consistent. If they're like 0.05 on EU, I know like that's the spread on EU, right? If someone's a raw spread like a True Forex funds where it's like zero spread, right? I know what I'm gonna get. So the spread's always consistent. It's the slippage that some people kind of see because, and as you know, like you've talked with Angelo, like sometimes like the slippage has to moderate. They have to kind of adjust the slippage.
Yeah.
So in order to replicate.
Yeah. So one thing that he brought up too was like mimicking a live market, right? Like you have to get filled on a certain amount. So the people that are experiencing the most slippage are the people that are trading the biggest size. So as your size gets up, the slippage calculation, I believe, changes.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit higher.
Yeah, it gets higher. So in my opinion, a lot of people that are complaining about slippage or blowing their accounts because of slippage are probably over leveraging, and they're probably going to lose their account anyway, right? Or they're trying to scalp on huge size, and then they're getting slipped 2 pips, and now they're blowing account. Like my stops are not that tight. Like I can't trade with a 10 pip stop. I don't know how people do it. I'm doing like 15 to 25 pips.
Yeah, and that's what it's actually interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine and she was saying the same thing because she has like a little bit of wider stop and she doesn't experience any of these issues. And now I will say this, right? Because I think ultimately people just want like kind of an out. It's like, hey, I want to blame these conditions versus that
external thing.
Yeah, and then I will say this: if you're someone who wants to trade like super tight stop loss, and maybe that's your edge, maybe someone has someone's able to do that and they're like a scalper by nature, right? Just find the prop firm that has raw spreads. And even if the commissions are a little bit higher, if you have raw spreads, commissions might be a little bit higher, and you're not really getting slipped, right? Outside of news events, which everyone should already understand the risks when trading news, then just find the prop firm that kind of suits that, or find a broker that suits those types of conditions. Don't go to the most popular broker, the most popular firm, and then when they have a little bit wider spread, and then you start complaining, because of that. If you need a tight stop loss, then just go to there's so many firms out there that have raw spreads that you can kind of look around, find credibility. I know we're going to have raw spreads as well. So just find a firm that aligns with the things that you want. And don't just always, be so quick to blame.
Part of that is understanding like your model and like what you're actually looking for. Like, Am I actually a scalper? Like if you're not a scalper, you don't really need to be at that prop firm.
Exactly.
A lot of it is like you understanding what your model is and like, finding the firm that fits you. Like if you're a swing trader, you shouldn't be going to a firm that doesn't allow overnight.
Exactly.
Like with the futures, I think pretty much all the futures firms right now, they don't allow any overnight holding.
Yeah, for me, I just stick to the same.
Which is interesting to me.
I just stick to the same 4 or 5 prop firms. So I know each prop firms, which one has bigger spreads, which one slips me. So I never had any problems because I know what each prop firm consists of. That's why with the funded, that's why
do your due diligence. Right? There's a lot of people beefing on Twitter about some rules that are clearly shown on the website.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Like,
yeah.
The world that I came from, construction, right? I'm reading like 50-page contracts, and like if you don't read that contract, you're gonna get taken advantage of. Like contractors got taken advantage of all the time because they missed something in the contract. You're gonna lose $50,000 to $100,000 because you didn't read through the contract. It's a little thing. Yeah, it's an extremely small thing. And it's like a 3-page contract that you got to sign. Like you could read through it quickly, or just read through the pages on the spreads and everything, the rules behind it. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah, actually, one of my students, he lost his entire funded account because there was a rule where if you don't trade for 30 days, they take away the account.
Oh wow!
And I
think a lot of firms have a 30-day inactivity. Are you guys gonna have that?
For the inactivity rule, like not on the funded accounts.
Okay.
So on the challenge, even though it's like no time limit and stuff like that, but usually all you have to do is place like a 0.01 lot, because the thing is this, right? It's not because we could potentially remove that like down the line as the firm like launches and stuff like that, but there's a cost per account per month that's upon the firm that gets put on. That's why like some firms do have that inactivity rule, but then as the firms kind of like cash flow, then they can kind of remove that because they can take on more expenses. So, but in the beginning, obviously, you kind of have to cash flow properly and then make sure from a business perspective where, now we can incur those costs, because there is a cost with every single month that goes by for every single account. So someone just said, you know what, screw it, or like something happened to that person, they gave up.
It's an unnecessary expense that you guys are paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
But so like with a lot of those firms though, it's in the website too. Like if you are not going to trade for 30 days, you could just reach out to the support and let them know, and they'll put a pause on your account.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. Like we want to make sure because like that's the whole point of having like the Discord where people can come in and ask questions. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to be bothered. We have a whole support staff just solely for that. And again, man, we just want to make the customer experience. That's the number one thing, right? The customer experience when they come in, because we know what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to come in and they're going to lose their accounts.
Yeah.
That's just inevitability.
Yeah, it's going to.
You want them to at least experience like, you know what? That experience wasn't too bad because the spreads were good, execution was good, the servers aren't freezing every 20 minutes.
The rules are clear.
The rules are clear. And then that's the problem with people. You can't satisfy everyone. I saw this situation on Twitter you were talking about where like someone
they want to be
was complaining about
doing like the work.
Exactly.
Read a little bit and make sure, because you're taking a risk at the end of the day. You're paying for something, like you want to read the rules through.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're gonna think it's a scam when it's really not.
It's like the people who are like, someone else traded my account. And it's like, how did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember with TFT in one of their discords, like almost like 6-7 months ago, like someone was saying in the chat that they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm trading this," and then my friend's trading it the other day, and like it clearly says that you cannot have multiple people on one account. And when they kind of like kicked out the trader, people are like, "Oh, it's a scam," but it's like, no, you guys in plain sight were telling the owner. That's the crazy part. And but like you can't be upset because it's all in the rule sets. Like, and I understand some like traders are gonna be like kind of like upset about that type of situation, but you guys have to understand like there's a reason why that's not allowed. There's like stuff behind, you know what I mean? So, and again, it's a simple thing, like just trade your own account. You know what I mean? You can't have two people trading on one account.
So I had a friend, I had a student who was trading, and they kept doing a trade copy. Basically, he had an employee, and he would give him the trades or take the same trades together at the same time. And obviously, they're on the same internet, whatever, and just track the IP addresses. And they kept getting kicked. It happened twice to him. And he got kicked off, like, gone funded everything. They got.
Well, it's actually in the rules because I've looked into it a lot because I'm copying to all my accounts or because I'm managing it all the same, right? And it's in the rules that you cannot have it, as long as the account's under your name, you could copy it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's not, that's why if I'm going to run an education service or anything like that, I can't do live trade calls. Like I'm not going to do entries. I'm not going to do stops or targets.
I've seen that a lot on your live stream talking about it because it's like
I'll forecast and I'll tell you which direction I think the market's going to go. But if they find out somebody else is, using my
Well, it happened with FCMO, didn't it?
Yeah.
And there's 4 or 5 traders.
Was telling me, they were going to pay out. I think they were owed like $750K. Yeah,
They got like 20% of it, 10%.
I don't even know if they got that.
I think they got an offer, but they might not have taken it. Yeah. I think they got offered a smaller percentage, but then they would like kept finding
what that percentage is.
Yeah.
We should ask Angelo.
He has the answer.
Yeah. Maybe he does. I don't know. It's FTMO.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But that's why these firms, that's why they have max allocation because they could. It's people think that these prop firms are like trying to like screw traders over, but the reality is this: there's risk behind the prop firm, and there's risk again. They don't want to put too much backing on one individual strategy. So like
that one trader could bankrupt you.
Yeah, and that alone too. Like if you want an A book and stuff like that down the line, you have to like having a multitude of strategies that are kind of being implemented is typically most ideal. Even like the brick and mortar prop firms, right? Like SMB Capital, all these other, they encourage traders to kind of have their own playbooks and their own rule sets because it allows the firm to be less.
Diversified.
Exactly. Because you don't want a bunch of like I remember one I think it was 7 Points Capital or some equities firm. They were talking about it on the podcast where they're like one day they have a ticker that shows up and everyone's going short, and then when they look on the risk. When the risk appetite is looking at it, they're like, yo, why is everyone going short? We have to deleverage.
That might have been one of the Chat with Traders podcasts.
Yeah, it was definitely on that podcast. I forgot which it wasn't SMB. It might have been 7 Points with Mike Katz or someone. I think that's his name. But yeah, those are the real like risks when it comes to, the business model of having like a prop.
That's it. And I think people, all they have to do is just not even do research, but just have an open mind of understanding what business is, and trading as well, and understanding the different strategies. Because obviously everyone gets so caught up on trying to, claim like I'm an SMC trader. They spend that much energy doing that they just forget that it doesn't matter. None of that matters.
Yeah,
and
it's trading the same price. We're all trading. Linda Rash, she's a legend. She's trading like Bollinger Bands. Right, it doesn't matter what strategy you're trading. Like we're all trading the same price.
That's it.
Just remove everything from your chart. We're just trading the same price.
Well, the thing is that you were saying earlier, which I wanted to touch on, was like your stop loss size. Below 10. And above 10.
Above 10.
But you don't go below 10. And so is that have you got like an average?
Like 15, 25. It depends on the market chart. Like some days are like crazy. Like obviously, if I have to use like a 50-point stop loss, I'm probably not going to take the trade though.
Yeah, same exactly here.
Wasn't actually.
I don't pass 30 pips for EU and GU. I just stay between 15 and 25. If it is past 50, I'll just lower it down to 30 and take that risk.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, there's surprise some traders out there that they think they could get away with like 7 pip, 8 pip stop losses. That's tight because the brokers can open up the spread on you, right? And like even when you get filled, like you might be down 2 pips right off the bat, right? Same thing. Yeah, the slippage.
Yeah.
Well, what about yourself?
Yeah, so honestly, me personally, I'm more comfortable around that 10 to 15 pip range as well. But I would primarily just trade EU, UCAD. GU though, like sometimes UCAD,
I hate UCAD.
Yeah, I'm not. You know what it is? I started to have an affinity for it after, like, I've been trading with one of my friends. And yeah, it's just I just realized with UCAT, you kind of have to kind of anticipate a deeper retracement than usual, like compared to other pairs. I'm starting to get a little bit like more comfortable with it. GU though, like those stop losses are typically over 20 because GU just the volatility of GBP. But again, it might be a 20 pip stop loss, but you can get 60 pips relatively easy. Yeah, because exactly
Jump your lot size.
Exactly.
That's why I trade all my positions are just open up on TradingView because it just automatically calculates the lot size for me.
Okay. So what do you think to like these people doing like 2 pip stop loss, 3 pip stop?
This is ludicrous. No comment.
Well, let's talk about another thing then. So like, number of pairs. I know you said you only trade 1.
No, I trade a little more than that. Okay, I'll trade the majors. Anything correlated with the dollar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it one at a time?
Mostly, yeah. It's one at a time. I'll trade the dollar yen. I'll trade dollar CAD. I'll trade the Aussie. I'll trade the euro, the pound.
So will you not have like a trade on EU and dollar? Okay, so just one at a time.
I used to do that. Like when I sat down with ICT, I sold my. When I thought the dollar was going to go one direction, I was opening up positions on
Correlation.
everything. Yeah, and it was.
I used to do that.
The funny is, I think me and JadeCap have like the exact same trading plan.
Sounds like it.
It's simple,
How many
man.
pairs do you use?
Simple.
It's
I was saying just the majors, 15, 25 pips, EU, AU.
You're giving away too much now. Now that you have the correlation, that's too much.
Yeah, but I'll watch like SPY and BTC with EU and CAD. I'll occasionally watch GU. I don't know what it is, GBP. Maybe it's like a mental thing. No, I just it's just I just like EU because it might just be a mental thing because I've started out with EU when I first started trading because with ICT he always like kind of preached sticking to one thing just to get more comfortable with it. So EU, maybe it's just because I built that kind of like bond, so to speak. But yeah, I'll trade S&P 500 even though I don't really like to too often. I'll take it on the higher time frame. I don't like refining my entries just because.
You do ETH as well, don't you?
Crypto is all higher time frame, like daily, weekly, and then
I'm kind of trying to get into crypto more too, but I noticed like they're better swing plays.
Exactly.
Like, it's hard to day trade. Maybe probably because the liquidity is low, right? I don't know, for whatever reason, like the swing trades seem to pan out better.
No, they 100%. I talk about this with one of my friends. She says the same thing because she says whenever she sees me trading BTC in our group chats, my entries are always. It does not go below the H1 because with crypto you need a little bit of room.
I think that the spreads are high too.
Well, if you go with True Forex funds, their spreads are 0 on crypto, but their swap is insanely high, insanely high. So, yeah.
Well, that's something to look into.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, with True Forex Fund, like that's why I like them the most because their spreads are like super tight, across the board. So not just with like Forex, but also with indices and crypto. Yeah, crypto, you're not beating those spreads. There's
a new fund. There's a new firm out, Crypto Fund Trader, but they have their own like platform. It's like the web-based platform. It's like a Bybit almost, where you're just. It's like an online exchange almost. But I was reviewing it the other day, right? I tried to go on. They had like a demo login where you could like sign in and check it out. I signed in and like none of the quotes were loading. I was sitting there for like 5 minutes. I was like, all right, this is not looking good. And it was like right around Asia. And I know the crypto markets are active during Asia. So I don't know. I think I'm going to try to do that challenge just for, my followers. Or maybe I'll do the True Forex funds. But I'm trying to dive into crypto a little more.
Yeah.
I haven't had any luck with like SPY or ES.
No, yeah, we talked about it.
Like for me, the correlation is like the dollar. So when I think the dollar's going one direction, I think the index is gonna go one direction, but it's not like that.
I hate correlation.
It's highly uncorrelated. Well, not highly uncorrelated, but I think usually it's correlated. But I think now because it's uncertain times that we're in, it's not moving 1-to-1.
100%.
And that will mess me up.
And it's kind of like positive drift, right? Like
yeah. And that's what this in terms of correlation. I know you just said that you don't like correlation. Yeah. That was the one thing that like always would get me so aggravated back in the day. EU DXY is probably the most correlated out of everything, but it would get me so mad. Like I'll be in GU longs and DXY is like dropping, and I'm like my GU is consolidating. But I know there's correlation with euro pound and all this stuff, but it just got too much. That's another reason why I think I just cut out GU and just kind of just locked in on EU.
Euro has like the highest correlation with.
Exactly.
90-something%.
Exactly. So it just makes me more comfortable. Because if I see something on DXY that's very obvious, now I know, okay, I have a directional bias on EU.
That's funny you mentioned like dollar CAD though, because I find that that's not really.
It's not, yeah, because of oil.
Oil, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an annoying pair, but
So you follow oil too?
yeah, if I'm looking for a CAD trade, I'll typically watch oil, and then yeah, because obviously they're inversely correlated. So if oil's tanking, but then DXY is tanking, then a good chance UCAD's gonna keep going sideways.
Yeah.
So then I'll just avoid CAD that day.
What do you guys think about gold? Because no one's mentioned gold yet.
Yeah, so Angelo was actually talking about that because he mentioned, like, he brought it up because we're, like, obviously, I mean, we've been in a period of high inflation, so you would think gold's, like, ripping hard, but it's going up, right, but it's just slowly. You would think that it's, like, up, like, 100%, a lot more than
New all-time highs, everything was not.
I don't really trade gold. I mean, it's stable. Like, again, like, if you're going to trade gold, I think it's better off if you're, like, a swing trader.
Yeah. Interested.
Yeah, for me, I made the most amount of money with EU and G. So I've just been sticking with it since. Like, I don't need to add any.
It's not broken.
Have you seen, like, the stats? A lot of the stats is that the most traded pair is gold.
Yeah.
In terms of, doesn't mean, obviously, most people lose.
Yeah,
Correlation.
so maybe that's why.
Because I used to try and trade gold, but it's a dangerous game with that one for me anyway. But then I also see people who do really well with it. I think it obviously comes down to your sort of like tolerance of volatility.
Exactly.
But how much can you speak to? Obviously, you know your pairs. Like, you have your specific pairs that you look at, and how does that work for you? Does it actually really benefit you just knowing those pairs inside out rather than constantly changing, having such a basket of trades?
Yeah. Honestly, I think when you get really well versed in the market, you could trade anything. Okay. It's just where do you want to focus your concentration, really?
So when you first started getting that consistency, were you still sort of trading all of those?
No, not really. I kind of narrowed it down a little bit.
I tried trading with a bunch of different pairs, but then sometimes I'll miss a clean setup on one.
That's the problem.
So I just started focusing on just a couple of pairs.
And I've got I got some big screens. Honestly, if you're trying to follow multiple time frames, it's hard to follow more than like
Exactly.
5-6 markets.
What's funny is like 70% of my trades are just for my phone because I know EU, GU, DX are in the back of my head. Like on the higher time frame, those are my pairs. So I just go on the lower time frame on my phone and trade off that. I don't recommend that, but that's what I do.
Are you looking at a higher time frame like on your
I know what the higher time frame is because those are my pairs. I only look at those 3 pairs.
So you already know what daily levels you're looking for.
Exactly. I could like picture the chart right now, EU in the back of my head on the higher time frame.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably trying to trade from their phones because they're still working a 9-to-5 job, right? They're at their job trying to trade off their phone. I mean, just set your levels the day before and know the levels that you're looking for intraday.
Yeah, and also the more pairs you trade, the more trades you take.
Yeah.
And with that, the more trades I take, I start getting messed up. My psychology is not there. So it's better just
Some people can do it, though. Some people can kind of manage like a whole portfolio and say like, all right, I'm long in the euro, but I'm hedged over here.
I get mentally fatigued after a couple of trades. I'm like, I'm done. I can take off.
It's like the anomaly you were saying earlier, like there are going to be those people who can just manage all of this information and this data and be able to handle it.
No, he posted a really good Instagram reel. I think it was a reel the other day or a couple weeks ago where it was like Forex traders going to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Just staring at the phone with eyes closed. I've definitely done that for sure.
And I will
I
say,
can't imagine having like multiple positions on going to sleep. Like,
Worst.
and to Kyle's point, right, like about like watching multiple pairs, right? If you're someone who like focuses on like framework and higher time frame, it's very difficult, man. Like if you're watching more than like 2 to 3 to be so focused on like every single level. And that's why like I prefer just kind of like if I'm watching Forex, I'm either going to watch EU, UCAD. Those are really the only Forex pairs I'll really watch. And then obviously like if I see something in crypto or S&P 500, I'll watch
it. Depends on like how precise you want your entry to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like if you're a swing trader, now you can follow like 20 markets because now you're only checking it. Because shout out to my buddy Trader Man, like he just trades on like the 12-hour.
Yeah.
Like he just checks every 12 hours. Like I think he goes down to like 4-hour usually, but if you're checking the 12-hour, you only have to look at your chart every 12 hours.
Yeah,
it's like
that's fair.
It's kind of nice.
Going back to holding a trade overnight and sleeping, I've had many times where I had a dream or a nightmare of me losing at a time. I just wake up and check my M4 real quick. That's the worst thing to hold a trade overnight. Because we're from the New York time, so London session's at 3 a.m.
Yeah, so you dream about markets too then, right? Yeah, right. I said it, I thought it was so funny because my wife can attest to this. Like literally, I think about markets all the time. And like a couple months ago, I woke up in my sleep screaming Bitcoin. I don't even trade. I wasn't even trade Bitcoin at the time. I just woke up. I thought Bitcoin was crashing. I guess in my sleep, just screamed out Bitcoin. Went back to sleep.
Dedication.
Yeah, passion. Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because I think that's probably the worst thing is when you actually have a dream of you actually made profit and you wake up and it's actually a drawdown. I mean, it's actually worse.
Full stop. Yeah, full stop.
I remember once I had a dream where I'd made like a large amount. I think it was like 100 grand, and then I withdrew it in the dream. I withdrew it.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I literally had told myself I'm gonna make it in trading because of that dream.
Oh,
Because I was like, my dreams, like I have like deja vu moments.
yeah.
I think that is just general in life. But
It's pretty powerful though.
so I literally told myself though, like I didn't tell myself this is gonna happen now. I'm making it. But I was like, I just told myself that this is going to happen
Yeah.
because I've seen it now. Right. So it was very interesting. But yeah, that was there's other ones though where I was like, I dreamt it, like hit TP, and I wake up and it's hit stop loss. Like,
No, Kobe talks about that all the time, like visualizing the last shot.
Yeah.
I've had moments where I place a trade like during London session, it hits TP, and I gotta sleep and I wake up for New York session, but I just can't fall asleep because I'm so excited to hit my TP. And like back then,
Do you trade London?
this was back then when I was starting, so I had work at like 6 a.m. and
Oh, yeah.
I would just trade during London session, but I couldn't fall asleep because I was so excited I made money.
No, I used to trade London session too, and it's brutal. Like I was trading London session, then going to work for 10 hours, 12 hours.
sometimes you have to, especially for you guys in this time zone. If you're working,
That's how you
can't
know
trade-
you really want it. If you're waking up that early.
I mean, if there's a
Fumes.
clean setup, you want to be awake for that. You're like, this might happen in London session. I'm gonna catch
I
this.
mean, I kind of noticed lately that London hasn't been that great though.
Same. But now I'm in a position where even if there's a good setup, I don't care. I'm gonna be up later on. I don't need to sacrifice my sleep for an extra couple of dollars.
Yeah, no, I have the same approach too, because I used to wake up for London session, especially because like 'cause there's like if you know like some ICT concepts, like if you know the Asian range is kind of tight, and I'm going to sleep around, let's just say 11 o'clock, and I see okay, there's a potential for like a Judah swing down to a key level. I'm like, all right, everything's kind of aligning, so I want to kind of see if the setup is going to form around that 3 a.m. Eastern time, right? But nowadays I'm just okay with missing the move because like dude, I can't.
It's an infinite game, man.
Exactly.
Infinite.
And I just rather trade
New
New
York,
York.
someone's right around the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah, because bro, like imagine trying to wake up and then your whole day is kind of like
Whole shift, the rest of the week normally to catch up and resync,
I talked to Angel about that, like as part of your routine. I was doing like the 4 a.m. gym session for a while. I can't do it anymore. Like my body's not made for it. Because I was waking up and hitting like a hard CrossFit session, and I have like energy for like half an hour when I get home, and then the rest of the day I'm like crashing. So it's hard to stay focused and try and get things done. I mean, so I'm sure it works for some people, but it wasn't working for me.
But it's like, with fight nights here, what time are they for you guys? What time will they normally
well,
be
the
on?
pay-per-views will typically be around
Late.
10 p.m. So all the way up until
Still pretty late for us though. That's why I don't watch them anymore live, because they're at 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
So if I try, even if I love the fighting, I want to really watch that fight.
Like the Garcia Davis fight was probably on really early.
Yeah, it's at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Yeah, so I don't watch
2
them.
hours ahead.
Yeah. So I don't watch them anymore because I'm like, I can't do that because my whole week is a story. So like if it's an amazing fight, then I'll just wake up
You don't
before
think
that
you could
fight.
just go to bed early?
No, I could. I mean, that's the thing. So if it's an amazing fight, then I'll do that. I'll try and go sleep early, or I'll just wake up before that fight
Yeah.
and just watch it from bed or something. But if it's a super amazing fight, then I'll go to the fight. So I don't have
I mean,
to
for
worry.
me, even like it's hard to stay awake for the main card. Yeah, because it's like at midnight, and I'm usually in bed by like 10.
What is your sleep routine like? Then?
I'm usually in bed by 10, but I'm up by like 6.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. Like I try and sleep for me is important. Like because I notice if I don't get enough sleep, like that next day, if I'm trading, it's over. It's over.
No, you're just trading. Just my whole
Just in
mood.
general.
Yeah.
I love sleep because when I started this journey, like I was working doing all college and all. I barely got any sleep. So now I have the privilege to sleep 6-7 hours. I'm like, thank God, like I'm in this position to be able to sleep. Actually,
It's a blessing, man.
it's a blessing for real.
It's kind of weird how it works, right? Because when I was younger, like I was working like on the shisha lounge and stuff like that. Like, bro, I used to have my shifts used to start like around like it was like 5 or 6 p.m. when the lounge would open, and they close around like 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's late.
And this was every single day. And like, and mind you, I would like wake up around like, let's just say 6-7 o'clock to trade New York Open, or get ready to trade New York Open. And then this was also like when I was pretending to go to school, so I had to go to the library. So my parents didn't know that I wasn't in school anymore. But it's crazy. But like when you want it, man, like you really will sacrifice it.
Like I took a job as like a home health aide, and it was like overnight shifts, and a lot of times like it was for elderly people or people that were disabled that needed help, right? So a lot of times they were like bedridden. So a lot of times like I was up trading the London session because there's like not a whole lot you have to do, right? When they're trying to sleep, like when the patient's trying to sleep, like I was up trading the London session. So that was kind of like me finding a job that kind of fit a trading schedule, But you got to just make a sacrifice, I guess. If you really want it, you're going to make the sacrifice.
Well, one thing I've noticed is there's like a common trait in terms of people who become successful in this game. And, from doing the podcast size, so I've spoken to so many people. Essentially, the way I treat the podcast is like backtesting the mindset, backtesting the journeys, you're just collecting all this data.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm sure you're learning a ton, man. You're going to turn into a training beast.
I'm really robbing everyone.
That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah. Especially like these table talks, they're incredible. But in terms of that, so like one was like isolation, meaning that they took themselves away from, say, social media or social groups and just focused on just them, right? Themselves, their craft, the trading craft. Is that something that you guys experienced?
Yeah. So like, at the time, I didn't really talk because I was an ICT charter member, right? So back then it was just forum based. So I didn't really reach out to a lot of people. Like I didn't really know that there was people on Discord and Telegram, like creating their own groups. Like I thought it was just all on that forum. So I only made a couple friends, like, and one of my good friends, Justin from Canada, huge shout out to him. He's like very spiritual and stuff. So he helped me a ton. Like I was struggling and stuff, and he pretty much just said, listen, just leave all the groups and just study on your own for a little bit. Because at that point, you don't have anybody else to blame. Because I was following other traders and stuff. I'm like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to follow his trade, and I'm going to hit it big. And it never really worked for me. Like you can do that for a while, but you're never going to learn anything. So when you remove yourself from that, and now you have nobody to blame except for yourself, now it's just 100% self-accountability.
100%. How about you?
Yeah, one thing just to add on to that, my trading evolved when I left the trading groups, when I didn't have to rely on looking at someone's weekly outlook. That's when I became a better trader. That's when I gained confidence in my trades. So if you're out there just trying to feed off some other traders' analysis, that's not going to help you in the long term. You have to venture out. You might take a losing streak, but that will help you. That will help you gain more experience, help you become a better trader.
Yeah, and it builds your confidence too, because now, like, I can go into a chat room and I see other people taking their trades, but I'm going to stick to my plan. Like, now it's good to, like, meet you guys, right? Because now we're all like-minded people. We could talk trading all day. Like, I could have one view on the markets. You guys could have another. Like, yeah, which would be right?
For it would be like,
yeah. It's all like, it's herd mentality. It's herd mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say this, because in the ICT, since we've all been in the ICT mentorship, like he used to do the weekly outlooks, right? And I was in there back in 2018. That was when I first enrolled. And I remember I got so dependent on those weekly outlooks.
Oh, yeah.
That like if I didn't watch it, I could not open up the chart. That was so
like he would go, sometimes you go weeks without like doing a weekly outlook.
Yeah, no, go crazy.
All right, where's this guy at? Like, where is he
I need to trade. I just bought this account. But it goes to show, like, at some point you kind of have to, you do have to go into that isolation, to your point.
Well, part of that too is like, I didn't understand all the concepts, like, as much as I did now.
That is true.
Now that I understand it, like, I don't need his weekly outlook. But if you just don't understand all the concepts, like, you need somebody to kind of like handhold you through it at first. But once you get a grasp of all of it, putting it together, then you can kind of go out on your own and study it.
I mean, do you think that isolation is kind of necessary? Because otherwise, some people understand the concepts, but they just have gone so used to
you build
their handhold.
You build a dependency.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to be an independent trader, like.
Well, let's talk about ICT for a moment, because as you just said, all three of you are chartered members, and you've seen some of the controversy, should I say, or just like the polarizing opinions of people. I wouldn't say there's a crazy number of them. There are people who don't like ICT or don't like the style, SMC as a whole. That's fine, that's no problem. But there are some people who are very aggressive and they're just malicious.
Oh yeah.
And what do you take from that? Because as free traders who are funded, full-time, consistent, and at a very high level, off the back of his teaching, and no doubt some others as well, as you've already mentioned, but his teachings in particular, how do you feel when you see these things and you see these people doing this in a very aggressive and malicious way?
So the interesting thing is, like, because I think, when did you join the mentorship?
So I studied this 2017.
Okay, so you've been with him for a while, right? So like, I think he posted like his YouTube growth, right? So I think back in like 2017, he had like 10,000 followers.
I started in 2020, but I had access to his 2017.
Okay.
And then
you kind of started seeing his growth kind of like start to go up, but now it's like parabolic almost, right? So like back in the day, you kind of just have to think of it like, as that person gets bigger, right? The negativities, it's like a ratio. Like if you're gonna get 10% of negativity towards you, like it's gonna grow with more followers. So if he keeps going, it's gonna get even bigger. Like the haters just come, like it just increase.
It's similar to like how Tate said that he used to have certain content that he would make, and at the time it wasn't as important because he had such a small audience to make sure it was a certain way. But as the audience grew, he had a responsibility, obviously, to sort of understand that audience. And what you're saying is, obviously, at the one point, he wasn't as known, so the hate wasn't as big. But then, obviously, he's at such a higher level now, because I think he's 500,000 subscribers now.
Over half, yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's what I mean. Like, even like back in 2020, I used to look at his YouTube videos. There'd be like 5,000 views. I'm like, oh man, these guys are missing out.
That's the real,
Yeah. Now if he posts something, he's getting like 100,000 views in like a day.
What do you think to like the SMC, like the negative traits you see in terms of, you see a lot of people coming in and they put so much emphasis on, say, like order block. Oh, it's incredible. That's all I need. This is the holy grail, if you will, or as we've talked about, the small stops, or the high risk to reward traders, or the algo traders, or the ping pong trades. What are your thoughts when you see these things?
So my thoughts, I guess being around like high net worth clients in my career, like smart money is more than just trading. It's how you manage your money, how you calculate risks in business, and like how you, just pretty much find opportunity. Like the smartest people, the wealthiest people that are generating wealth, like can spot an opportunity and they can take advantage of it. All right, they use leverage to their advantage. They use other people's money to their advantage. Like if they spot an opportunity, they're going to go find an investor, invest in that, and they're going to, use that buying power to their advantage. Like smart money to me is much deeper than just a concept.
Yeah.
To me, when I started with ICT or smart money concepts, I used to think this is the only strategy that works. No other strategy worked. So I used to be like basically one of those ICT students.
Yeah.
Until after years and years of experience, I realized
I'm still a fanboy, man.
Yeah, I realized that any strategy works as long as you have that edge. So I just grew out of that phase of being a ICT only, SMT.
That's good. It's good to, I'm sure there's others out there who may be in that phase.
Yeah, you could use his concepts in whatever strategy you want. Like if you want to use movement, he taught moving average.
Yeah.
Like, he taught the 9 and 18 crossover. Like you could use whatever he's teaching now, you can apply it to a strategy and improve your edge. Like for me, I'm just like, I look at it as like a huge toolbox, right? Like I'm looking at all these things, I'm just adding it to my toolbox. It's something I could, refer back to improve my edge.
Yeah, honestly, like with the whole, you know what it is? Like, I think it's just the best. I actually muted SMC and ICT for words on my Twitter just because it's like, it's something new every single week and it's the same regurgitated topic. But like my opinion on it is like, listen, man, like some of the concepts do work. Like whether or not people want to give credit ICT for it or not, like I think people put too much emphasis on that component. It's like, can you make the stuff work? Can you put it to your toolbox, like Kyle said, and then, implement some of the things, you don't have to implement all of it, but can it help you refine your edge just that much more where like, you feel more confident in a trade?
There's a lot of other strategies out there that work too. People are trading trend lines and probably making more money than a lot of people out there. They're probably making more money than me too,
Yeah. So as you said, like the famous trader trading Bollinger Japan.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people turn around and be like, Bollinger Japan, this is, no one can be profitable in this. But then there's someone right there who's highly profitable.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting. And we're coming towards the end of our first and historic table talk. So what I've done is, I do like quick fire questions.
Okay.
We've done.
Do we get paid for this?
Can I get a depends how good the apple? Depends how good the apple. So who wants to be a millionaire? I have like lighting and everything. No. But we're gonna do this like the top 3 tips, right? This is what I've gone for with this one. So just make them short and snappy in terms of the answers. So let's see. Let's go with top 3 tips to stay funded.
Reduce your leverage. Man, that's hard. You just went with one. So reduce your leverage. Think long term. What's a good one? What's another good one? Trade less.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to repeat though the one like deleverage, right? Because that's number 1, because that's how loan counts and funded accounts before. Number 2, just kind of like take your time. You're already funded. You don't have to keep going. And number 3, take breaks whenever you feel like you don't want to trade. Like being a trader doesn't mean you have to be there. If you have a bad week because of like something going on in your personal life, then just cut that out and just don't trade.
You gotta spread too much fire. They're sending the fire.
I know, man. I know. We need the soundboard. I saw you had the soundboard.
I know, in the UK. Crazy. I'll do it now.
Well, my top tip is basically when you do get the funded account, just remember you haven't made it. And do not start off risking 1%. That's the worst thing. There's a statistic out there that 70% of traders don't even make it to their first payout. So risking 1% is stupid because you're basically risking 10%. So you should start out risking 0.25, 0.5% until you have that buffer. Then you can decide if you want to up that risk. But that's my number one tip when you do get the funded account. Do not risk more than 1% or 1%.
So I think about it like a brick and mortar. Like if you're going to just start out with the smallest size and prove yourself, the prop firm's not going to give you a bigger line until you prove yourself, right? So do it for 3-6 months and then size up slowly, right? And see how your mindset changes. Because I know your mindset is going to change when you start risking more.
Definitely. No, I think a lot of people could take notes from that, hopefully. I feel one thing that people should really take note of is that everyone watches podcasts, everyone watches this advice, and they hear people like yourselves who have done it, gone through the journey and succeeded, and they'll listen to your words, but they won't actually take it on board.
Oh, no, yeah, I experienced that firsthand because ICT said, don't trade live account.
Yeah.
First week after.
Oh, yeah.
Waiting for the crypto deposit to hit.
Yeah, so the way I see it is I give the advice. Even if they don't take it, it's in the back of their head.
Yeah.
And then when they do experience that mistake, then they'll be like, oh, that's why Paladin said that. And then
And then you could come in and say, I told you so.
I'll get that point out.
Right there. But, okay, so here's another one in terms of a top 3, and then I'll do a little different one there. But top 3 tips to handle hardship. So generally, not just trading.
I would say put yourself in difficult situations like cold plunges, things like that. Understand that time is short, so you're going to experience hard times in your life. It's just unavoidable. Sorry, what was the full question again? Repeat that so I can...
Just top 3 tips to overcome hardship.
Just for me personally, I like to think about it as a life equity curve. If you're in drawdown, you can crawl your way back out of it. Just kind of focus on something positive to pull you out of that, because negativity compounds too. If you put yourself around negative people, you're going to get negativity in your life. So, try and always have a positive attitude and positive mindset. Even if somebody's being negative towards you, you could deflect that pretty easily.
100%. I like that.
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to hardships, I feel like the best way to go about it, first of all, is always kind of be grateful, because I feel what Kyle said, when you kind of put that positivity during negative times, it does really genuinely help. And another thing is, I feel like if you constantly put yourself in some sort of, I feel like be active, right? Whether it's some sort of sporting activity, whether you're hitting the gym consistently or having a hard workout, during tough times, I feel like having an outlet, right? And for some people it might be the gym, some people might be music or whatever it may be. Find that specific outlet, because sometimes you do want to distance yourself or have that kind of way of just having some sort of a release, So I think those 2 things would be my top things for handling that.
Yeah, my top 3 things are basically, number 1 is do something hard every day, whether it's training for a marathon, because you're not really training for the marathon, you're basically training for life, because eventually later down the road you will face some type of hardship, and with your training that will help you overcome that hardship because you're used to the pain already. Number two is just remember your why. Your why is everything. If you have a strong why, you can get through anything. And number 3 is what Omar said, just be grateful for where you are, because there's probably somebody else in the same position you are in, but much worse. Somebody your age or somebody in another country who wishes to be in your position. So those are my top 3 things.
Appreciate that. And in terms of the other one I had in mind, which was essentially, all 3 of you have had regular jobs. All 3 of you have been through the journey, whether it's going through schooling, whether it's going through a particular job, and the hardships as well. But what's it like now in terms of you've experienced that, you've actually gone through that, you've had to go through the hardship of blowing accounts, trying to change jobs, to make it work and having the different schedules. And now you're at a point where it's actually paid off. What's that feeling like, of you experiencing that journey and now being where you are today?
I felt really elated when I left my job because I didn't even give them 2 weeks.
Cool.
Yeah,
savage.
It got really stressful, and I kind of just up and left. But I had the leverage to do it, right? I had the safety net to do it, and I was elated at the time, right? But when you actually full time trading, right, it goes away quickly. That feeling goes away quick because now you're a business owner, right? And you have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, I think that moment kind of hits. When you start to see consistency, start seeing kind of life changing money, where it's all right, wow, I had to work like all these hours just to make this amount that I just made in a couple hours, right? I think that moment when the consistency kind of rolls over and it hits you like, wow, I'm really like doing this. That moment doesn't last for long. Like you get happy, but then again, the scariest part about trading, and I've mentioned this before, is like you're only as good as your last trade. Tom Dante, again, the GOAT, right? He talks about that all the right? This is a promo to get him on the podcast.
We will get him.
But he talks about you're only as good as your last trade. And he brought that up in a webinar before, and some people in the webinar were scared. And like wow, that's kind of depressing, but it's kind of true, man. And it just keeps you level-headed because, you know, you really are as good as your last trade. Just because you made money last month, last year, yesterday, doesn't mean you're going to make money tomorrow, next week, next month. So it's kind of good to kind of be level-headed, to just continue doing the routines that got you to where you are.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've talked to some other kids my age and who got successful through like the crypto pump, and a lot of them seem a little cocky, arrogant, that they're better than others just because they had that quick success. Whereas us traders, we have to go through so much hardship. We know how hard it is. And there were times where I even said, when I make it, I'm not going to make fun of anyone in this journey because I know how hard it is. So that's why I feel like we aren't as cocky or arrogant as others, because we know how hard this journey is. We almost feel sympathy towards them because it's not easy to be successful in this industry. You have to go through stress, all types of things just to make it in this industry.
Definitely. No, definitely. I love that. And, you know, in terms of handling now, obviously at a scale where your payouts are much, you know, very significant, you know, you're talking above, maybe, you know, 2, 3, 4 times above at times, you know, the average salary. How have you adjusted then? You know, how have you adjusted? How do you handle those? You know, is there a particular method in terms of, you know, breaking it into chunks? Percentage goes there, or what's your methodology with that?
Part of it is it's hard to adjust to because I know that there's still a lot of people struggling, right? So like trading in itself is a great way to build your wealth, right? And open up new business. Like I'm trying to start businesses as well, but that's not really where you're going to get your fulfillment. Like I think helping somebody else that's struggling, that's kind of where you're going to get your fulfillment from. So like if you can bring somebody along the way, like that's more important than trying to make money.
Definitely.
Yeah, and to your point, like the thing is this, like when it comes to like diversifying like payouts, right? I've talked about it before. Like obviously you should probably put some like 50% just as a safety net for like taxes. And then after that, like just don't spend, I don't know, I just feel like people shouldn't spend it on anything too reckless because you don't know what's going to happen next month. Like, and I know like people are going to think like, oh, he's being too cautious or whatever, but it's like, dude, I've been through ups and downs with trading. I've made like, you know, so much money. I've lost so much money, even like back in 2020. Like I've had so many like up and down experiences that I don't want to go through that roller coaster. I'd rather be the trader who's making a consistent 7 to 12K per month, you know what I mean, with lower stress than trying to put on some serious size. And then again, just allowing the capital to compound. But I think most traders, I think they should have the safety net. If your goal is to kind of go full time, you know, make sure that the job that you're having, you're putting money away. Kyle talked about it too before in depth, where it's like, yo, make sure you have at the very least 6 to 12 months of a safety net, you know, and banked away for bills. So like if you don't make a single dollar, you know, you're good. Exactly. You give yourself that time. And then just kind of enjoy a little bit, but don't go too crazy. Is kind of how I view it.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I put my money back into challenges. I just put that money back into myself, into my brand. And then eventually down the road, I've had more money. And with that money, I just put it into income generating assets. So going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, the main principle is earn income goes into income generating assets. Income generating assets go to passive income. And then passive income, you can buy the luxuries or the liabilities.
Yeah.
So I just follow that rule after I have enough funded accounts. My funded accounts, basically, I use that money to invest and also get more challenges.
I love that. No, I love it. And to finish up then with the last point or the last, it's not really a question really. What I'll say is, you know, address the camera, you know, one at a time, and feel free to give your sort of brief advice of how people can accelerate. You know, if they're let's say they're in the middle of the journey, because that's most of the audience, or maybe at the start of their journey, what can they do to not necessarily get to where you are, because obviously everyone's journey is individual, but how they can progress, you know, how they can get to that consistency.
Well, I think my advice is to really just kind of gauge where you are in your life and like what you want out of it, and set, you know, smart goals towards it and just continually progress towards them. day after day. You're not going to get results right away, but over time, like those results will compound and eventually you will hit your goals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think when it comes down to it, right? It's very important to, like Kyle said, have very distinct goals of what you want to do. Chart Addict, shout out to them. They had the event here in New York, and one of the speakers actually brought up something that I think is so underrated. And he talked about how his goal when it comes to trading is simply, he's not trying to be the biggest trader in the world, and most people aren't. But his goal is to like, hey, I want to trade, the New York Open from 7 to about like 9:30, and then he has like a whole restaurant here in New York City as well. Yeah, and his focus is simply like, hey, any income for him from trading is just all supplemental, right? That's not his main source, and I think it's very important for people to define that. Like, do you want to be a trader who's going to be like full-time, one of the best? If that's your goal, then you have to align, your habits with that goal. Do you want to be a trader who's, simply just, earning as a, maybe even as a hobby, right? But just be honest with yourself. If you're someone who's not taking trading that serious and you kind of view it as a hobby, it's okay. Like people would want to shame others for like just being honest with it. Like if trading is something that is a hobby that you can make money maybe here and there, then that's fine. But you gotta align your routine with what your goal really is when it comes to the trading niche.
I mean, I'll be honest, like as a full-time trader, it's like pretty boring.
Yeah, right.
You're just clicking buttons all day is long. So like, as you said, like try and have another business or something, or a passion project that you're trying to work on, because the actual trader lifestyle is not as cracked up as it seems to be.
Yeah. And as traders, we don't really provide value to the world. So that's why we have Smart Funded Trader, to provide as much value as we can to help others. That's our project that helps us get to our purpose, or that helps us give our sense of purpose. But basically, my advice is have a plan, trust the process, stick to it, and don't think you're going to get rich quick, because get rich quick mindset will just get you broke quick.
I love that. It's probably best. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, best way to finish off. Well, thank you guys, every single one of you, for being here. It's the first table talk, and we're gonna have Dante. Yeah. I'm gonna keep doing that now. I'm gonna get the soundboard. I'm gonna get the soundboard to have the HUD. So it because the amount of people keep mentioning, make it happen. But no, when it comes to that, I think he's a sound guy. I think as you say, he's in sort of incognito mode, and if he's ready and if he's willing to, we'll make it happen, and we'll make sure you guys are there too. But yeah, hopefully, first of many to come. Let us know in the comments below who you want to see on the next table talk. And make sure you follow the guys. Their links and everything will be in the description below. And it's been a pleasure. Make sure you subscribe. Until next time, take care.